House to Home, brought to you by Remax Diamond Realty.
Okay, I got a theoretical for you. You own a piece of property, let's say 30,000 square meters, right? It's on Guam, it's all deeded to you, you own it. You can completely cut this up in whatever way you want to divide and subdivide and subdivide, make it however you want. Liz and Gina from Remax Diamond Realty, I am absolutely correct on this, 100% accurate, right? My property, my rules, my decision, I can cut it up however I want. I can make it in all weird forms of geometry. I can do whatever I want, right?
Wrong.
That's why we're here.
Okay. Thank you for saving me possibly tens of thousands of dollars in fines, I'm assuming, if I get them. Why can I not do that?
Well, I'll start first. Generally, when you are ready to subdivide your property, you're going to go to a surveyor. Some people, I've actually seen sketches where, for instance, you go through probate and instead of going to a surveyor, they just kind of sketch it out. They draw it out on the map. So-and-so is going to get this, and they never go to the part of getting a surveyor to do it. But the reason you cannot just do whatever you want is there's all kinds of laws, whether it's the zoning requirement that says if you're in agricultural zone or R1 or whatever the zone is, you can this is your minimum lot size. And then after that, there's EPA regulations that say if you're going to cut it up and you want it to make sense and you want to be able to build on these properties, then this is the minimum lot size if you have A or B on the property, which is basically sewer. The biggest issues here are sewer and water lines. So there's a lot of regulations that goes into this, and you really have to start by knowing your zoning and then knowing the area you're in. Is it over the waterlands? They call it the aquifer. Is it over the aquifer? If it is or it isn't. So yeah, it's a lot of detailed work that goes into figuring out if this is possible or not.
Even if I own the property, it was either passed down to me from my ancestors, or I bought it outright. Liz, that's not the case, right?
It doesn't matter if you own, as Gina puts it, it's based on the requirements. So for example, if you're over the waterlands and you own 10,000 square meters or whatever the size is, you can only cut that up into half-acre parcels, 1858 square meters. And the law dictates what you can do with it. So if you're agricultural zone and you're over the waterlands, then you're limited to what you can cut it up with. If it's,
and you have no sewer.
And you have no sewer. Your zone could be residential, your zone could be multifamily. There's still rules and guidelines that dictate what you do with it. And then your infrastructure, is it within close proximity? So there's so many factors and variables that it's best that you consult, a surveyor and also talk to us, and we can give you some guidance in terms of what you can do with it. Because people think it's mine, and we've had situations where people took a piece of paper and they just drew lines, took it to it, this is the old days, took it to a surveyor, and when the people bought it, they realized later that they could not get to the property because it was steep. There are different factors with the topography, and they're stuck. They bought it not knowing the factors about the property. So they just cut it up on paper. So you can't just take your lot and just cut it up based on your desire. Okay,
Gina, you were mentioning geometry a few moments ago, and I've always thought this was fascinating because, like in the U.S., right? Like say, the state of Idaho is very, very awkwardly shaped. A lot of that has to do with, when the country was being formed and who it belonged to, and, there was the thing with, historical wars and battles going on, so they had to divide it. But you said on Guam, pretty much we're bound by, it has to be in squares, right?
No, it doesn't have to be in squares, but as Liz is mentioning, it has to make sense. We come across a lot of families, especially in probate situations, right? We come across a lot of families where you've got the map, and then the surveyor's tasked with, well, there's 7 of us, cut it up into 7. So let's say based on zoning, utilities that are available, and the total lot size that you are able to cut it up into 7 lots. But nobody bothered to go out there to figure out, okay, like for instance in Chalampago, it's hilly or it's ditches, right? Yep. So we've had, that's right. Elevation. So we have situations where the surveyor would take the hole and then they draw, they draw it out based on what the government would allow, cut it up into 7, put the road in where they feel it's most advantageous, and then they record that map and give it to the family. 3 of the family members, at some point in time, they managed to get out there and clear, and they're like, wow, this is really a great lot. The other 4, at some point, get out there and say, wait a minute, my lot, I can't get to my lot. The road goes this way, and then it drops 50 or 60 feet. How am I ever going to get to my property? This occurs more often than you can imagine, and it's because people do everything on paper. They think it makes sense and it looks great on paper, but logistically, and when you get on site, it doesn't make sense.
And this is why map specialists know about topography and stuff like elevation, because you can't draw that on a 2-dimensional.
Well,
you can't draw that on a napkin.
You can't do it without physically going there.
Yeah, going there, and then you could do an area which shows the elevation drops.
Right.
And then you'd have to
along cliff lines.
Along cliff lines, because we have people that come to us and say, we want to sell. The usable portion is a sliver, and the rest of the property drops.
Yeah.
So unless you're savvy in developing, grading the land and designing a home that will take advantage of the view maybe, but if it's a drop, it's going to cost to build, to grade the property to a part where you can use most of it.
Well, I am now having to rethink everything I want to do with property.
I wanted to mention one other thing really quick, and I know we're almost out of time, but the thing is, not all realtors are created equal. And I'm finding through our years of experience looking at some of these maps, we scratch our heads and we wonder, how did this surveyor ever get away with mapping this out the way they did? This road literally goes into a huge ravine that you can never correct. You can never use it. So these family members, the ones that got lots on the other side of the stream or other side of the channel, will never be able to access their property. So I caution people, talk to your surveyor, but beyond that, go out there and look before you do it on paper.
And ask a surveyor, where does it look like my lots are? Because if it's over the river, guarantee you'll have an objection.
Well, ladies, thank you, and you have now ruined my dreams of creating Guam's first panhandle, because I've always liked the states of Oklahoma and Florida, but I guess I got to rethink my plan. So we'll talk to you next week.
Next week.
That's very helpful information, so make sure to give them a call, RE/MAX Diamond Realty Guam, for all your realty needs. We're back after this.